Hey everybody, it's Mike Sullivan with Building Better Communities. Today we have a really cool guest. His name is Alex Jiricek, and he is in beautiful Seattle, Washington. And Alex, thank you, brother, for making time for us today and for sharing your experience with us. And just thanks for carving out some time.
Hey Mike, yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today and, tell you a little bit about my career path and also a little bit what I do at King County Metro.
Yeah, how do you get into it? Like, what led you to do what you're doing? Was it when you were a little kid? Was it something in college? Was it your grandma? Like, how did you get into this?
It actually was from a very young age, and it started not necessarily with what I'm doing now, but just kind of in a big umbrella sense. So from the age of like 2 or 3, actually, my parents picked up on the fact that I really liked trains. Like I was like every time we saw a train, I'd freak out, get super excited.
Yeah.
Growing up, I'd drag my parents around, the Midwest, kind of where I grew up, saying, I want to go to where these trains are, or that train is, or that museum, right? So I had kind of a really, really strong passion for trains, and I wanted to learn everything I could about them, ride every train I could. And that's still definitely one of my primary hobbies today, which is kind of a, fun thing on the side. I still go do all of that and learn everything I can, but trains generally drew me to infrastructure in
Mm,
general too, because I'd be like, oh, hey, that bridge is cool, that airport is cool, this new highway interchange is cool.
yeah.
Hey, look, there's a bus, there's a traffic signal, right? So I kind of had like a wide-reaching interest with infrastructure in general. So when I was growing up, I was trying to figure out like, what is that? How can I do this as a career, right? Because if I have such a strong draw to it, like they say, if you really like it, you might not work a day in your life. And, definitely there's, you know, may or may not be true, but it certainly makes it easier to have a strong desire and passion for what you're doing. So I was like, how do we turn this into a career, right? And pretty quickly, civil engineering kind of came up on the radar as something that I could do and kind of have a part in building infrastructure. So even since middle school, honestly, it was kind of funny. It was like you write letters to your future selves. I
Mm.
remember, and then that particular teacher, when we all graduated high school, emailed those letters to us. And sure enough, there was
No
sixth grade me
way.
saying, I want to be a civil engineer. And at that time, work on roads and traffic signals. I found out I, liked transit as well, which is, why I'm grateful I ended up here. But, sure enough, sixth grade me was like, you are going to be a civil engineer.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so it's kind of been a lifelong passion, and as I move further along in my career, I'm sort of specializing in certain things like transit signal priority, which I'll talk about later. But it's really been a whole life thing, and definitely drives me to you know do what I do and be glad I'm doing it. So.
That's awesome. What a cool story. It all started with trains. And where in the Midwest are you from? I'm from Illinois.
Oh, wait, really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm from a suburb of Chicago, actually, like 30
Yeah.
miles straight west.
Me
So,
too. Crazy. Yeah, I grew up
oh
in
my gosh.
Lincolnshire. Yeah, Lincolnshire,
Oh my
Illinois.
gosh.
It's like
Wow.
35 minutes north of the northwest of the
Yep.
city.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, that's
Small
super
world.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely.
Wow. And then trains. Yeah, we used to have trains around the Christmas tree in the winter, and I was pretty blown away by them too. So that's the cool. That's the first time I've heard that. That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah, no problem.
when you were well, now you've been doing this for a while, and what just gets you out of bed in the morning? Like what gets you excited to go to work and just look forward to it? What is that?
Well, that's actually a lot, which is probably a good reflection on Metro. So there's a lot of cool things that I'm working on, and honestly, it's kind of hard to pick one. So I'll just run the entire list here. But one of the primary functions of my current job is to help get our next gen transit signal priority system up and running. So if I abbreviate to TSP, that's what that stands for. But basically, what TSP is a way for buses to communicate with the traffic signal in advance of the bus arriving in order to modify the signal timing so that way when the bus gets, you
Smooth
know,
flow. Yeah, nice
absolutely
flow.
less delay, more
Yeah.
on time buses, and more reliability too. So that way we can modify things to account for that. So King County Metro actually was one of the first agencies to deploy a TSP system of any kind way back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. So it's kind of really ingrained in what my team does. So I'm in a group called Speed and Reliability, and we've got two engineers, myself and my supervisor, Owen Kehoe, who's been at Metro for like 25 years. So it's absolutely wonderful, like learning from him, all his TSP experience, and to kind of have that institutional knowledge. So that's a great piece of it. But so Metro's been iterating through different types of TSP systems that, previously were a bit less sophisticated and required extra roadside equipment in cabinets. So there's added cost and maintenance and everything. But I got hired on right as we're moving in the next gen system into operation on the street, and that's all done in the cloud, which is very cool. So the
Oh,
bus will
super
then,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, yep, buses will communicate with kind of our central system, which will then communicate with our TSP vendor's cloud,
Mm.
which will then talk to the traffic signal controllers. And it's, a lot less hardware intensive, a lot less maintenance. And it's also kind of future proof too, because we don't
Mm.
have to worry about something becoming obsolete in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's cool too because it'll dynamically calculate on the fly when the bus is going to arrive instead of saying
Mm.
when it's at this point, change the signal in 15 seconds. Now it's all just done
Anticipation.
dynamically.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
anticipating. Yeah, and it's automated. That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's great. There's certainly a lot of different facets with that, like different types of traffic signal controllers and firmware, and then obviously like the transit agency doesn't own the street, so we've got to
Mm.
work with a bunch of our partners, like the city of Seattle,
Mm.
and all of our partners are great to work with. So there's
Mm.
kind of a lot of layers to it, but now
Yeah.
that we're actually, slowly moving it into the field and getting it working with different controllers and firmware, it's really cool to slowly see that start to expand. So that's probably, one of the favorite things I do at my job.
That's so cool because you're seeing what you're doing and how it truly helps people that live there, in the community, especially someone that maybe needs to, I don't know, whatever it could be, get to school on time. And if the bus is late, then the kids are late. Or maybe someone
Hmm.
needs to take a bus to work. And if they're late, their boss fires them. And they have three kids at home they have to feed. You know what I mean? So it's like what you're
Hmm.
doing really is impacting the community in a beautiful way. That's really cool. And did you have something else? Because I was going to go right into what would you say to someone that's new for encouragement? But if you have something else you want to share, by all means, go for
Oh,
it.
well, just kind of off of what you were saying,
Yeah.
that's one thing that actually, kind of brought me to government work actually is
Mm,
you're directly interfacing with the service that helps, in our case, the people of King County do
mm,
everything they need to do from doctor's appointments to visiting friends and family, right? Everything anyone could need to do.
yeah,
Definitely a lot of people choose to or must rely on the public transportation system. So obviously
that's huge. Yeah,
we
I
yeah, we
forgot
need to
that.
make it
Yeah.
as as reliable and dependable as possible. But that is something I really do kind of enjoy is like, even in prior internships and, because I worked at the city of Seattle while I was in grad school. And it's kind of cool because on that team I was designing small capital improvements that would help transit there too, because we work closely with the city. So it was cool
Mm,
to do transit improvements even at the city level. But
yeah.
when I moved back here to take the job at Metro, I'm like, hey, they built that streetcar safety project. Hey, they rechannelized that roadway, right? So it's kind of cool to be able to interface directly with what is being improved, and then once it's in the field and operating, you can be like, hey, that thing I helped and we worked together on is now helping people have a better experience or a more reliable one. So
Yeah.
that's another like key driver for me as well, is just kind of helping people and then seeing what I work on um do make people's lives better.
I love that. That's so cool because then your heart posture is in the right place, Alex. You're there as a servant to serve the community, and I think that's beautiful. Using the gifts that you were given to help others. So that's super cool. Way to go. And if there's someone out there that's going, huh, this is cool what Alex is doing. Maybe he or she is in middle school or high school, maybe even in college, and they're still trying to figure out what they want to do. What would you say to him or her to encourage them if they're excelling at math and science and they like the way things are built and everything? If they're just saying, what he does sounds cool, how do I do it? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I guess for those who are younger, prior
Mm-hmm.
to maybe high school or getting into college,
Yeah.
honestly, whatever it is, whether it's engineering or anything else really, if you have a strong drive and you want to learn everything about something, whether it's engineering or any other field, honestly, don't play to your strengths, right? Like, don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to pursue what you're good at, whatever that may be. And honestly, I think it'll carry you through, especially when you're in college too, kind of the tougher days when you're running around trying to get exams and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much work, I'm so overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
But if you're working towards a goal you set, and it's kind of one of your passions and you really really are into it, that'll be so helpful as you progress through your career and keep you motivated. So
Totally.
whatever you're good at, don't be afraid to, you know, go full tilt into that thing and just try to make everything you can out of it. But for those who are kind of
And
younger
new.
engineers,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, maybe still early in college or maybe between undergrad and grad school or grad and career, right? Because I'm still relatively early in my career too. I'm approaching 3 years of full-time work at this point, but honestly, just don't be afraid, especially early on, to try different things, right? Because my prior role was in a consulting job back in the Midwest, where I was designing and creating plan sets for bus rapid transit and light rail transit projects in the
Mm.
in the Twin Cities area, right?
Mm.
And at least when it comes to civil engineering, there's two main paths you can take: consulting and then working for a government entity of some kind. And I'd really encourage, younger engineers, especially those in school who don't have a job yet or are starting to look for one. Don't be afraid to, try both, see what
Mm-hmm.
suits you. Every job will have its positives and maybe not as positives, right? So it's just early on in your career, just don't be afraid to, take a leap and, move across the country if you have to, or, you know, be like, oh, I might not be completely sure, but just try anyway. And through that, kind of trial and error or learning, doing a bunch of different tasks and roles, you'll gradually figure out what you like to do. So don't shy away from that. Because at least for me with that, like my first internship was at a government agency, kind of working on traffic signals, like doing
Mm-hmm.
traffic counts and warrant analysis. Um, you know, for like, is a stop sign or a traffic signal warranted? There's a whole process that goes into that.
Mm.
Um, but it also involved a lot of field work. So that first job was like, hey, maybe you can find a job that's part office or part field, right? To get a mix of things. That way you're just not at a desk for 8 hours a day. I'm like, okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I'm like, I like having different bits of work in different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that was also where I kind of got introduced to traffic signal controllers initially, and then seeing the behind the scenes systems of how those traffic signals work
Mm.
and kind of some of the technology that's with that. So that was kind of my first taste of that. And I was like, okay, let's keep that in the back of my mind. That's cool. Let's see where that can go. Right. And then, my internship with the city of Seattle was kind of doing civil improvements. So instead of traffic signal controllers, it was doing like channelization of the roadway or safety projects, things of that nature. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool too. And it's really nice to see your stuff get built and learn that process from concept to design to construction. So that was a great opportunity there. I really enjoyed working at the city. But then I was like, okay, let's try consulting, and do civil design work again, where it's like roadway and bus platforms and things of that nature. But throughout that process, traffic signal controllers and a lot of that technology was still kind of in the back of my head. I'm like, okay, so now I've kind of done civil work and transportation work, and I like both, but I think I really want to learn more about the technology behind the signal controllers, right? So then
Yeah.
I just got very fortunate to see this opening, on our team in speed and reliability, and I knew they were the team that handles TSP at the King County Metro. So that's how we ultimately ended up here, right? So it was a bunch of different experience and different flavors of civil engineering, but I think it helped me gain a lot of good knowledge, but at the same time figure out what I really wanted to stake my career in, which would now in traffic signal controllers and transit priority as well, kind of in the long haul. So just kind of sharing a little bit about my path and the different flavors of experience. So just don't be afraid to do that same thing, and and I think it'll be beneficial early on in younger engineers' career.
Yeah, completely agree. And Alex, thank you so much, man, for sharing your heart, for sharing your story and your journey and your encouragement. Really appreciate you making some time for us today.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for the opportunity, and really did enjoy speaking with you today.
Wherever people go, one signal at a time, one project, one design, making tomorrow brighter than today. They're building better communities, keeping families safe on every street, helping traffic move, helping dreams come true, making life a little easier.